hopefully this is a go.
Yeah.
I'm gonna get the intros in now. I've been forgetting those. I'm like, I got the button right here. I'm like, duh. All right, here we go. All right. I'd like to welcome into On My Block podcast. As myself, your host, Amon Green, along with my good friend and teammate, Mike Wall. Man, Mike, how you doing?
AG, I'm doing great, bud. Good to be here.
All right. So, yeah, I would like to, before we get the show started, like I said, I want to make it announcement to happy Martin Luther King Jr. birthday and or day. And now a day that's been, I say, went a long time without being acknowledged. And so now we're actually acknowledging it here in I say United States, where it's days off from school, days off from work, but to honor what the man did along with other activists during the 60s to keep the ball rolling in terms of change for civil rights and the whole civil rights movement and everything that's still going on today, Mike. So to everyone listening in, we got some playoff talk coming down the line next, and we had a big weekend. They call it the Super Wild Card Weekend, and it is not over yet. We still have a game tonight against the Rams and the Cardinals, big NFC matchup in the playoffs, so that's going to be big fun. But the weekend was we had the Patriots winning big or losing big. I'm sorry, excuse me.
Oh my God,
Bengals doing well against them, and then Pittsburgh and Kansas City. Ben getting his walk-off game because we know that this is pretty much the end for him.
Walk-off is right.
Right. And then the biggest game and the most interesting game of the day of the weekend, I think, for both of us was the 49ers and the Cowboys game, because obviously that winner, or actually the winner is now going to Lambeau, coming here to Green Bay, Wisconsin, where I am at. And it was that. So let's get into that game, man. I mean, that Cowboys game, 49ers game, from the jump was interesting, to say the least. I'll say I'll start off with that.
Dude, they're really good. Listen, it's so much fun for guys like you and me. The playoffs right now, like everyone, you can go to national media. We can talk about it. Like Joe Burrow had a good day. Mahomes had a day. Allen had a day. But like when I'm watching these games, especially this game, dude, football is back. We're playing smash mouth football. Offensive lines matter. Defensive lines matter. Like trench warfare matters. Like the Niners, the guys who are coming, won that game not because of their quarterback, right? Because of their offensive defensive lines. The ability to withstand pressure, to get pressure, to create a new line of scrimmage. The things that a guy like Deebo Samuel can do out of the backfield and the slot, wherever. Running game was on point. Like they have. Yeah. They have the old school formula for winning football it doesn't look exactly the same, but the formula is coming back, right? And they're winning games with a guy who's like, you probably go, I don't want to call him a game manager, like a very capable quarterback, but not a superstar. And
Garoppolo, that's what you're referring to there.
For me, man, I love, like, I think they're a super tough out, but like you said, like you were saying earlier with the Cowboys game, it's amazing that the Cowboys can. I mean, by the time that kickoff happened, I'll bet you half the country thought the Cowboys were going to lose that game. You know what I mean? It's like almost it's almost like they got talked into losing, like the way the week went, and then just the confidence that the Niners came out with, the physicality the Niners came out with, and the Cowboys didn't really. I mean, honestly, they didn't really respond until Garoppolo gave them a freebie.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it was something to where they were still stuck in some like pause mode, basically, that first drive for the Cowboys defense, and then the Cowboys offense, once they came out on the field after the 49ers went right down the field, marched down 15, their 15-play script, and just scored, made it look real easy. And I also agree with you, the confidence of the 49ers offense and the confidence of the defense, rushing for pretty much the whole game, getting in with 4. They didn't have to blitz a whole lot. The blitzing came when they needed to put on a little bit more pressure. But overall, the whole game, they rushed for on defense. They ran the ball heavily on offense, stayed in that double tight end set, motioning here and there with the tight ends or with the receivers in the backside of the backfield. Elijah Mitchell, that young running back, was a 5th, 6th round pick, coming in off the bench through the injuries of the running backs they had throughout the season. was phenomenal. He had like 20, like almost 20 carries, almost 100 yards rushing.
Yep.
And that's what you want. You got two guys basically in that offensive backfield between Debo and Elijah Mitchell that's going to tote the rock. I mean, Debo is Debo. He's a receiver, but he has that Anquan Bolden built, basically. You remember Anquan Bolden? He was a big receiver, but wasn't I mean, when you looked at him, you like, man, that's a running back playing wide receiver. And this is Debo, and reincarnated there, running the rock the way they are, outside toss plays to him that were, I say, the most successful plays when they did that one swing, I say orbit motion, arena football style, and getting him the ball and then just getting to the edge, and then 49ers defense having the push, even with or without Bosa being in the game, they still was getting in there with Armstead and in the middle with the big guys. It was just something that was impressive. And for the defense, I say for the Cowboys offensive line and overall, I say offensively, they just never really got in full stride, got in their stride of how they should have been playing, because it was something like it was what I saw when I saw Denver come down there 2 months ago in October, came to Dallas Stadium and just basically put it on them in their stadium. So that was that was a physical part of the game, but then the mental part of the game, the IQ of the game was also parts of the game that helped the Cowboys lose on yesterday as well.
Yeah, it's like what I say, like they just can't. It's like the Cowboys can't change their stripes right now, and it seems like every year you're always talking about how it's, first of all, I think it would be extremely difficult to coach or to play on the Dallas Cowboys because their owner shines such a bright light on that organization that we talk about good players as if they're world beaters. We talk about average players as if they're good players. Like we elevate some of their guys to a status they really don't deserve, right? If you get what I mean. And the pressure that comes with it, and you got to be able to live with the pressure. It's part of the deal. It's part of being a Dallas Cowboy. But you do have to live with the pressure that's probably different than every other place. When I watched that game, first of all, I think they should never, with the amount of resources you have on the offensive line, there should not be free guys coming through on pretty simple TTE stunts, right? Like we're too good for you should be too good for that at this point. The left guard got the brake speed off him yesterday. I don't even know his name, man. He just got absolutely manhandled. And it seemed like it just kept happening in inopportune times. Not that there's an opportune time, but it just, the Niners are playing on their side of the line of scrimmage more often than not. And when you talk about, you knew the game was going to turn. You knew Jimmy Garoppolo was going to give up the bag. You knew he was going to make a mistake. He always that's his narrative, right? Like he looks great. He throws a pick. He looks great. Right. He gives the ball away. He misses the double move to the corner. And you're just going like, how did you miss that? Right. And at the end of that was the most ridiculous ending to a game I think I've seen in a while. You start you start with like Debo looks like he picks it up. In any other stadium, in any other time in the NFL, he gets the first down. The referee goes, changes the spot, remeasures it, 4th and inches, and then Garoppolo goes full Garoppolo on you. And, dude, you shift your tackle, and here's what drives me insane because we're offensive line, right?
Right.
All day with Trent Williams jumped off sides. No, he didn't. He shifted, and your quarterback forgot to wait until he got set. Like, are you kidding me? In the biggest moment of your playoffs of the entire game, you can't let your guy get set. Like, you've got to be joking. You turn the ball over there, they come back down, and there's a rule, AG. Like, I don't know what year coaches figured this rule out, but you got to have 16 seconds on the clock to do what they tried to do. Right? Run the sneak. Now, I get the math. Like, I get you want to run. You don't want to run 2 Hail Marys. You want to run the 4-5 vert, and you want to hit that whole shot, right? Like I get why they want to do that,
right?
But when you start talking about the Dallas Cowboys and you start thinking about, okay, it's the most penalized team in the league. Okay, they had 14 penalties yesterday. Some penalties
14 penalties. I was going to
bring
that
up.
Some of those
penalties, AG, were inexplicable and inexcusable, like ridiculous, especially the defensive holding stuff. Like it was so blatant.
Yeah, Radden Gregory tackling the guard.
Oh my God!
The pull.
Yeah.
I was like, huh? I was like, come on now.
Oh, it was nuts, man. And so you have that. Then you got Dak Prescott. Now, how many 2-minute drills have they run during the year? How many special situation drills have they run during the year? Right? How many, what do we always talk about? Bill Belichick is the absolute master of situational football, right? Because he educates his players on exactly what's going on, exactly how it's going to play out, and exactly what your expectations are. I have to make the assumption that the coaching staff, because we know some of the guys on the coaching staff, we know that they have been through it. They know it. They'll teach it. They'll preach it. The quarterback doesn't hand the ball to the referee. The quarterback doesn't hand the ball in a situation when they're down 2 seconds for like the traditional time you would make that call.
Yep.
I can't. It's inexplicable, man. It's just like and it should have never got there because Trent Williams was, should have gotten time to get set by Garoppolo. But you just go. It just sucks because now the conversation goes to again, Mike McCarthy, who was Green Bay Packers head coach, won a Super Bowl there, right? I'm sure has a street named after him.
Yeah,
he's a CEO type coach. He doesn't call plays. He doesn't call defense, right? So what is your job? You have to motivate your guys.
Yep.
You have to keep your coaching staff under wraps. You are a game manager. You are a situational football guy, and you are a disciplinarian. Like that is what a CEO does in the world of National Football League. And this game, unfortunately, your brightest star, your $140 million quarterback, shone a huge light on situational football awareness, right? And your entire team, you're talking about discipline with the 14 penalties. Like, it's a bad look, man. It is a bad look.
It is. I mean, that last drive, I think I look back at it and you got everything. It starts off great. They're running plays to get the ball out of bounds. They have no timeouts. They have 38 seconds. So they start the drive off perfectly. Where you're completing balls, and they do even though it was a flea flicker, which I don't know why they go to the flea flicker, but just throw a ball to an out route. That's it. But they do the flea flicker. It works though. They get the ball flea flicked. The guy runs out of bounds. Next play, tight end catch the ball. Boom. He catches it on the sidelines, gets what he can. Boom, out of bounds. And like you say, situational. Just remind your players the time on the clock as a coach. Even though they should know, but just as a coach, be a repetitive reminder. Hey. We have no timeouts. We got to get out of bounds if we're going to get within the 20 or 30 to try to push it to get a shot in the end zone, maybe 2 shots. It was really an opportunity at 2 shots, but that's the conversation. Those are the words that everybody is saying. And that's something you told your quarterback before they got the ball. Okay, here, we're on the sidelines. Before we get the ball, this is what's going to happen. When we get the ball, we have no timeouts. So we got to throw the ball out of, basically to the sideline. Or incomplete pass helps us. When we throw it incomplete, that helps us. So this is what you're going to do. Boom, 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 boom. Once we get to the 20, if we make it to the 20, this is the play call. Before they get the ball. Before Garoppolo does Garoppolo. Before that happens, this is the conversation. If it's the Kellen Moore, the offensive play caller.
The guy who's getting hey, everybody, hey, this is our new head coach. Welcome in to it's that part of it, and that's what I'm talking about, man. Like, that's what's crazy about this whole deal, right? Dan Quinn's a head coaching candidate. I mean, he should be probably, right? But
correct. Yeah, he's a good
He just got fired with the Atlanta deal. Kellen Moore, he's hot topic. It's like, dude, it almost feels like you almost feel bad for the guys, but it's like the organization does it to themselves. Sorry for digressing there, AG, interrupting. I mean, but it just drives me insane.
No, you're good. You're good. It's just something I say. It is a focus and a concentration problem. And I remember when I went down to Houston and in my first year there, and actually it wasn't even the season, it was mini camp. And this is something like you mentioned with Jerry Jones, I noticed right away coming from Green Bay, where I maybe saw Ted Thompson this many times in my 8 years in Green Bay, on the practice field, in the dining room, anywhere, in the meeting room. I saw it this many times, 5 in 8 years. And I was on mini camp. It was third day of mini camp. I had seen Bob McNair all 3 days at practice in a suit with an entourage. And so with that, I'm like, don't y'all feel this is just odd? And then I can't remember. It was It was an old line. It was a linebacker. He played with the Ravens, and I can't remember his name right now. I think it was Sean. Was it Sean something? He played with Sharp in college, I think. And he said to me, Amon, he said, "AG," he said, "This is they just trying to keep up with who up north." I said, "Oh, is he?" And that's like, okay. I was like, it's just different to me because I grew up in a place where there for one there was no ownership, but even if it was, they let the coaches coach, let players play. So you didn't have to have that under, like you said, that it is a pressure where you basically you gotta win the Super Bowl every game, every play,
Yep.
every practice. It's like we're winning the Super Bowl. It's like, bro, it's May. What we're getting just trying to get the team together in May, getting these rookies put together and see what they're like, see if they're the draft picks that we want them to be, So it was just interesting to your remark about how Jerry Jones puts his influence without knowing what he's doing to his teammates.
I got to tell you this.
On the field.
I got to tell you this story because you brought that up.
Right.
So when I'm in, you and I are in Green Bay together. Things are done a certain way, right?
Yep, a certain way.
I go down to Carolina, and so the old owner, his name is Jerry Richardson, and he played for a season, I think, with Johnny Unitas, and then he went into, I think he bought a bunch of Hardee's and some other fast food chain restaurants and made $1 gazillion. So he bought this team. He went to a college called Wofford College in South Carolina, Spartanburg, South Carolina, which is like very, very uncomfortable in the summertime. Like not a great place to have training camp. But he wanted to have it was kind of ego rub. So we'd go have training camp down in Spartanburg. So I remember the first year we're down there. This guy rolls up in a golf cart. We're doing one-on-ones. And everyone's watching because I was a big free agent guy and they had Chris Jenkins.
Yeah, I remember CJ.
So the first day, everyone stops like practice, basically going to watch us go at it. And I remember he rolled up and he kind of like rolled up right next to the 1v1s. I was like, to the point where I was like, dude, you might get hurt. Like, are you sure you want to be there kind of thing,
Right.
And I just remember like every day he'd roll up and then finally it happened. He rolled up and stopped his golf cart where we were doing one-on-ones. And we literally, the coach just, and think about this now. It's a big field, bro. We had 2 fields. Yeah. The coach moved the dummy bag so we could just move the thing down so we wouldn't have to ask the owner to move. That's the kind of nonsense we were doing in Carolina, dude. It's like, where are your priorities? We already know you own the place. Like, you don't need to pull it out right now. We know you're the guy. You know what I mean?
Right.
It's crazy out there, man. But it has an effect on everybody and everything. And it's one of those situations where there's some good dudes on Dallas and it's hard to dismiss. It's kind of tough. It's sad to watch because it's almost like they're eating their own enthusiasm now. Mm-hmm. Every time you go into these playoffs, it's like, how are you going to lose this time?
Exactly. So with that being said, we move to the keys of the game because we know what's coming down the street. We got the 49ers and the Packers Saturday night, 7:15 kickoff Eastern Standard Time. So what are some of your keys to the game, Mike?
Well, I think Deebo Samuel's, I think he's just a matchup nightmare. And it's not only the runs that he gets, and it's not like he had 9 carries at one point for 60 yards, 63 yards, something like that. He's just an explosive guy. I don't know how many I don't remember his numbers in the slot or what he was catching.
He had 35. He had about 35 yards receiving.
Yeah, but it's what he does to the eyes of everybody else. Like, he just makes the running back better. He makes Ayuk better. He makes George Kittle more open. We have to have a plan of who the game with the Green Bay Packers is always what now. We've been in this year, get home with 4, tackle in the alleys, play that cover 2, don't let anybody get behind you. And we did a pretty good job, especially in the first half of the last time we played these guys, of doing just that. Let Garoppolo throw you the ball a couple times. Keep pressuring him. Kenny Clark beat the absolute brakes off of the interior line for the San Francisco 49ers last time. Dean Lowry had a nice game too, and it makes a difference. Our edge guys can set the edge on their line of scrimmage in the run game. All that stuff makes a difference. So, for me, it's business as usual, but they have evolved in the way that they're using Deebo Samuel, and we have to be ready for that.
Yep. And then, so for me, that's where I go into both agreeing with you, slow the run game down for the 49ers. Because you saw that game. Cowboys had no remedy on that first drive, second, third drives. I mean, maybe in the second quarter and third quarter, they made a few adjustments where a couple of times they knew pre-snap, okay, they're about to run this play, and they held them back. But that was 1 or 2 plays. It wasn't the whole game. And it wasn't a point where it say, okay, now we got this under control. This is where we're going to win the game. So that never came to light for the Cowboys defense. And then obviously, I think you mentioned it, to get in their flow. So offensively, we've seen the Packers for every game this season. When they got into the flow, they're pretty much, they're hard to stop. Devontae's running his routes, getting open, or basically Aaron's throwing the ball in placement in places where only Devontae could catch it, or Lazard or DeGaria, wherever, or whoever he's throwing it to, he gets it to them, because he's, like you mentioned this season, you said it several times, Aaron can be a cheat code at times. And then I say biggest thing for both teams, and really the Packers, keep mistakes to a minimum, because as we saw in the playoffs, for every game we've watched, any and all mistakes are going to hurt you. I say 3 times the amount of a regular season game to a playoff game, because when it happens in the playoffs, it grabs on more to the concentration and the focus of each player, because they know the heaviness of that game. They know, oh my God, this is the playoff game, so I can't do this, and I just did. So then now they got to fight through that mental mindset of, okay, let me forget about it and move on. Not a lot of players understand that, because they look at the situation. Okay, regular season, you go preseason, regular season, playoffs, and it's like you don't understand. Sometimes if you treat that game just as important, or I say just the same as the regular season game, then it won't bother you as much. But if you put it way up here, then that mental mindset then goes, and you're out the door. You're like, hey, I need you. I remember coaching some of my high school players in the last couple of years, where I had a player make a mistake. I think he fumbled the ball, or he went the ball right, and he was one of our best players, one of our best. He was our running back and linebacker. And I said, hey, come here. Forget about that mistake, that fumble, whatever. I need you. I need your mental here. Worry about the next play. So you get guys where they're just gone. They're like, oh my God, it's the world. It's over. So it's like you get this situation mentally for a lot of players. They kind of check out, and so that's where they got to, like, you know what? This is just a regular game. Let's go out here and execute and do the plays that are called out there on the football field. So with that being,
AG, with that, like it's always been interesting to me as kind of we went through our careers, and now you kind of look at things from a different perspective.
Mm-hmm.
The game doesn't change for us. For a player, the game is the same. And I'm talking, we could talk about being high school, college, pro, like relatively speaking, the game's always the same. A regular season game is no different than a postseason game. The only difference is the external pressure or the external things that you feel from outside of you, outside of your group, outside of your team, the media, right? Family members, social media, all those are putting external pressure, but the game doesn't change unless you listen to everybody else.
Exactly.
And the best players just understand, there's no tomorrow. Yeah, there's a finality to this, certainly. But the way that we go about in our preparation, right, doesn't change. It better not change.
No.
The way everything should be exactly the same, because when you get into that moment, to be present in that moment, to not worry about what happens later, to not worry about the play that just happened, to be present is the only way that you can be the best version of you. And that's what you have to do, whether it's the regular season or the playoffs, if you want to have the kind of career your team wants to have, the kind of success that's required, right?
Yeah.
That's for young players. That's such an important lesson that we just gloss over sometimes, man. Like, being present in the moment is the way to find the best success. And the only way you can do that is understand that every single day is just the same opportunity to get better, man. You can decide to look and listen to that outside noise, the extra interviews, the meetings that you have to go through. Like, you can choose to let that distract you, or let that motivate you, or whatever the word is you want to use, cause anxiety, or you can just go. You can just go be you.
Exactly. And that's what I know. That's what I did. I know that's what you did. We was like, we're going to be us out there in this playoff field. That's about it. So speaking of that, we got matchups coming up. So what are the matchups on offense that you like?
On our offense?
Yeah. Or offense, their offense, defense, vice versa. Answering your question here.
I know you have the some of the wide receivers out here. So I'll go with this. I really like a healthy offensive line. As good as I think their offensive defensive lines are, I like us downhill with our complementary running backs. I really like our running game with these guys, and not necessarily to have a 200-yard game, but to be able to run the clock, establish the run, establish
Yes.
the cadence that we're going to operate
Yes.
with, right? Kind of
Mhm.
take control of the game, dictate the terms of confrontation. I feel very comfortable with Bakhtiari coming back, with Myers being in there, the game that we played against them before, having Mercedes Lewis.
Mhm.
AJ Dillon's I think a much improved player from week 3.
For
I
sure.
think he played at a Pro Bowl level. I think you know it. I love Aaron
Yep.
Jones and what he brings to the game. So I love that matchup, even though you have to acknowledge, assuming Bosa and Fred Warner are back, like that is a
Ooh.
strength of their line too. But if we're
Yep.
going good on good, I'm going to take us.
Yeah, I hear you. I mean, Bakhtiari coming back, looking good last week, and I still like it. Like you said, the 4th preseason game. But he got into his rhythm of being comfortable. Going against a team and player one-on-one that had been playing all season, and he just had that one game to get ready for this coming game. And this is going to be obviously the best test you're going to have. You got some of the best guys that's going to be in front of him in terms of the 49ers line of scrimmage. I mean, off defensive line of scrimmage coming in. So for me, it's Devontae and whoever covers him, and these wide receivers for the Packers. Allen Lazard, last couple of weeks, as we saw, showing up. He's showing up not just in catching the ball and catching touchdowns. He's a blocker. He will sacrifice. He will go in and get the grimy work, the trench warfare work done. DeWaria obviously showed up in the last couple of games too. So having these players in the pass game mixed in with the run game then makes this overall team, from an offensive standpoint, very dangerous and very where they are basically staying in rhythm what they've been doing all season, getting points on the board. Now it's just making sure the defense side obviously does their job, but offensively, if they get in that rhythm like they've been all year, they'll be able to put them points on the board and what they need and put that pressure on the 49ers offense, because then if they slow the run game, you can't win when you're behind a lot in any game, no matter playoff game or not. Within the run game, when you have the run game, that's all you got. You got to have some pass routes. You got to have guys
first
get
of all, with like Lazard finishing blocks, we got to take a lot of pride in finishing every play, offensively and defensively. I think what we saw last time we played these guys is they didn't really get home that much, right, with their front four. And it allowed us to have success with some of those intermediate routes, some of those deeper routes. And part of that's because of the way our quarterback can get rid of the ball. He's a cheat code. But part of that is like we had time and we held up. And that makes a huge difference in a game like this, because we know the running game for both sides is going to be part of this matchup because of the weather conditions. It's playoff time. Like that's how games are won and lost. So we'll talk about that a little bit more in trench warfare. Yep. But our ability to hold up those intermediate routes, those crossers, those double moves, like that's going to pay off big for us, as it did last time, as it really has all season. And it's just, it's a testament to they're kind of playing the same way we do. They're trying to get home with 4. They don't want to get beat deep, and it's just a question of who out executes. And you have to feel good with our wide receiver core.
Exactly. And what's important about those intermediate routes coming open and winning big on them, those are the plays that set up the run or the deeper routes. Because if you could get off and get a 5-yard reception, an 8-yard reception there, you're frustrating that defense, because that defense line, we know we got to get there. We want to get home within 2-3 steps of penetrating the offensive line. And when that ball is out, quick, boom, 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 kind of like with Tampa Bay. I think it was a stat where Tom Brady was having that ball out in 1.8 seconds or something. It was gone. It was gone. And that's not saying, and I don't know what Matt and what Aaron discussed, but they get the ball out fast. So that as a defensive lineman, once they see the ball throw, they're like, dang, the ball is gone. So that's just an added frustration that they can do. So those intermediate routes are going to be very important for Devontae to get open, for Allen Lazard, for DeGuaria, and for whoever, Aaron Jones, AJ Dillon, when they're in those routes, along with the long handoffs that they get. But make sure to get those. That's why those intermediate routes are very important. So from that being said, we'll get into trench warfare here. And so I'll pass it on to my guy who is leading the conversation here with some good points of emphasis in terms of the 49ers D-line and the Packers O-line. What you got, Mike?
So let's start with this. Because we got these guys healthy, and I think they made the decision to put Patrick at right guard. I think that Eric Armstead matchup with Patrick, Aaron Armstead usually plays over the right guard. Yesterday he played against Zach Martin, arguably the best right guard in the league.
Right.
That matchup's going to be absolutely monster. Billy Turner coming back. I hope he's back. I think Bosa is going to be able to play. We kind of make some assumptions with the concussion protocols.
Yeah.
It's a Saturday game. So
and it's playoff.
See a lot of that Bosa Billy Turner matchup. Billy's had some success against him earlier in his career. So I just think that right side of the line is going to be like that's going to be an all-you-can-eat deal as far as watching trench warfare and understanding kind of a lot of the game is going to be won and lost in those matchups. So I'm excited about that. I talked about it. I'm really excited about our downhill running game in the second half. Jones can have a big game with kind of those switch up, outside runs. We did such a good job. If I switch over to the defense now, we did such a good job of controlling the edges last time, like beating. And George Kittle is a phenomenal run blocker, but Preston Smith is having kind of a standout year from a run defense standpoint. Gary's good. Now we get Z Smith back. He's great. Obviously, inside, I think we dominate at the tackle position versus their guards and center, even though Alex Mack's been a great player. Kenny Clark absolutely ate him alive last time they played. Laken Tomlinson's a good player. I feel much better about Kenny Clark as far as winning that matchup. So the thing that really, when you watch the San Francisco 49ers, they're, as far as an offensive line in their run game, from a schematic standpoint, they oftentimes will try to run that stretch where we got everybody going one way. And when they run away from Trent Williams, they are fiercely dangerous because he does such a good job at that backside cutoff, whether he's hand fighting, whether he holds the guy, or whether he actually gets around and cuts him off.
And that's
that
important.
Backside tackle doesn't make that play, and they cut off that all the time. So going with a 5-man front, making that more and more difficult because now there's 2 guys in the middle. Like all those things are going to matter. And then you have to think about our ability to stack it play side and force the cut back into our linebackers. Like those are going to be huge plays, those 1v1 blocks inside, being able to defeat that backside cutoff that Trent Williams is able to do. Because like otherwise, I think you like every other matchup across the board.
Yeah, definitely. And what to your point about what Trent Williams does on the backside, for me as a running back, so let everybody know when that backside is cut off, that gives me a third option. Like the 2 options I have going, if we're running a play to the right, I already got the outside to the right side, but then I also have a slight skinny cut to the right side too. But if the backside is cut off, my eyes go like this. And I'm back and I'm about to gouge that defense because then everybody's over pursued. And if I see it with my eyes where I see the linebacker helmet run over top and the backside linebacker either runs over top or is cut down, hey, I might bust my head on the goalpost or on the field goal post like Edgar Bennett, because that is part of the job of the tackles and the guards backside of a play. Get that backside garbage, cut it down or occupy it to where they're not able to get in a play mess up the play if there is a cutback for the running back there. So I definitely agree with that.
Yeah, listen, with that scheme, it's always been interesting over the last 10, 12 years. You can gash in that scheme. Like guys have big plays. Deebo Samuel, what did they do? They ran a motion with I think it was Ayuk, and they got they got Vanderlish off outside the box. He ran the opposite way.
Yeah, he was pursuing a lot, over pursuing a lot.
Yeah, so Deebo busts up that 20-yard touchdown run. I mean, those things happen in this kind of offensive scheme. And historically, the downside to this scheme. And they're not just like his own team. Like they can run the gap, they can run they can run a lot of different stuff, right? So I don't want to discount them. I think they're well coached, and I think they're a very good offensive line. But historically, the problem with this scheme is you can't get that hard yard because you're always running sideways, so you can get penetration on these guys.
Yeah,
so it's really hard to get that 3rd and 1, get that 3rd and 2, 4th and 2. It's hard to get those yards. But when you have a Laken Tomlinson, when you have an Alex Mack, when you have a Trent Williams, it's like that's pretty easy, man. We're just going to go downhill. Right. And so they kind of have the ability to play. Like it always makes me cringe when I hear, we're an outside zone team or, we're a man team. It's like, dude, you're in the NFL. You need to be a grid line blocking team. That's what you need to do because whatever we don't do well, you should be doing. Right. Exactly. Whatever as a defender, I'm not good at, I over pursue. Great. We're going to run the zone. Right. I got big guys up front. Great. We're going to run the gaps. Right. You know what I mean? You have to be able and this is one of those teams that can kind of do it all. So it's going to be a great matchup, I think, in the trenches. Whoever wins that, for me, whoever wins that matchup is going to ultimately win the game because that is also going to translate into pressure. Pressure equals picks. We know Garoppolo, when people get in his face, he'll start throwing the ball away.
Exactly.
So that's kind of where I'm looking at as the centerpiece of this game.
Exactly. And they got the same pieces in place because they coach together. for the last 10 years, and actually longer than that. Since 2007, I was in Houston with Kyle Shanahan and Matt LaFleur.
Right.
So that's how long they've been around. And I would say before that, so probably 06, 05, maybe even longer. So almost 20 years they've been together, from Atlanta to Tennessee to LA. So they've all been a part of each other. So they understand the concepts. They know they want to run if they need to run. And that's why you see the Packers offense similar in some situations, similar to the 49ers offense. And I definitely know that, yeah, I said this the other night, pressure breaks pipes. And that's what happens to, when you get that D lineman pushing in there, just on the play, like the play in the Dallas game where Dak actually had a good throwing lane, but the pressure of the D lineman pushing the tackle into Dak, throw his rhythm off of throwing, and boom, that's a pick. So those type of situations can arise between the little battle in the trench warfare there. So moving on. So we finish off with the trench warfare. Let's get off my line.
Get off my lawn.
I want to hear some of this, and yeah, it's interesting, the conversations that's popping up already. I haven't looked up a whole lot of the coaching stuff because it's still early, but I know with a guy like Russell Wilson, that's a conversation that's starting out now, because he obviously is a big talking for either leaving the team for some reason, either his personal reason or just free agency that is out there. So Mike, take it from there.
Yeah, if you want to start with, we can start with Russell Wilson, man. The idea that we have to endure another offseason of people like Russell Wilson acting like he's this, perfect human on social media and saying all the right things, then having his camp leak out like, well, these are the 4 teams I'd like to go look at, or I'd like to go explore these other dude. Just, it's okay. Like, everyone thinks you're a good dude or not a good dude. It already happened. Just do you. If you don't think this is the future in Seattle, just say it. Hey, listen, I want to go somewhere else. Right. Force him to make a decision. But it's always, to me, it's like when you say one thing in public and then in private, you're always going back channel, right? We, unfortunately, now it all comes and gets exposed. It just, to me, it just makes you look disingenuous.
True.
So
I'm with you there.
I'll just say this. Pete Carroll, John Schneider, the Seattle Seahawks, their ownership group, that is a first-class organization. They have been run the right way. They won a Super Bowl with an incredible defense and running game. Russell Wilson was a key player, but not the player back then, right? He has been the player, and they are not winning. They are not in the playoffs. I know that everyone wants to, we talk about it like let Russ cook, and like he is a incredible player in this league and could go anywhere. There's probably only 4 or 5 teams that he could go to, and he wouldn't be the guy, right? So he's a top 5 to 10 player in the league as far as the quarterback position. He's going to help a lot of teams. But man, let's just go out. If this is what we're going to do, and this is just me as a former Seattle guy who loves the Seahawks, let's just go get it done with. Let's just be done with it. I don't want to hear all this nonsense all year, and then you come back to training camp acting like you want to be there still.
Right. Yeah. I've seen his social media. He goes deep into the theatrics of the music and the videos. Yeah, it's just
the hype videos on his
hype video. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's it's a thing. Like we as players, we know the business. We get it. And it doesn't hurt feelings in terms among players, maybe for the fans, obviously, but among players, we know, just say where you're going. It's no big deal. It's been talked about and it's seen, and not saying that he's playing down to that level. He's just not having a good year. In the last couple of years, he's been I remember you bringing up the first time talking about let Russell cook. It's like, yeah, that can't be a game plan. Usually he's a phenomenal player. He can do things with the ball because he had that baseball background, but you can't just go with that as a game plan. So from there, with teams not building out in the trenches, get kicked out the playoffs, and I got to agree with that one.
I love it. Right. This was a great game. 2 really good offensive and defensive lines, or at least as advertised as really good offensive and defensive lines.
Yeah.
But we can go up and down. Like, you think about it, Cincinnati is probably the only team left where you go, okay, their offensive line, not very good, don't protect very well. Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase are just difference makers, and there's not much you can do about it, right? But you go through everybody else. Like, I'm not going to say the Chiefs' offensive line is great, but they've invested heavily in their offensive line.
True. Yep.
Tampa Bay has a great offensive line.
Yep.
Like, I love watching those guys play. I like everything they do. I love Ryan Jensen. I like Tristan Wirfs is a bad man. He's going to be an all-pro. I think he was an all-pro this year.
Yeah.
Right? Like, he really, really good team. The way they think about things. Tennessee Titans.
Yeah.
Green Bay Packers, San Francisco 49ers. Tonight, both those teams are, okay, so we can go tonight. Proof's in the pudding. I would say that the trenches and the Cardinals are much, much stronger than the trenches in the Rams. I know that Aaron Donald's on the Rams, and I'm still saying that, even though he might balance everything out, but I don't think the offensive line for the Rams is very good. I think the defensive line for the Cardinals is much better. I think the offensive line for the Cardinals has played well this year, and the defensive line for the Rams, not named Aaron Donald, who can wreck the entire game. He might just one-man wrecking crew like he did last time.
Yeah.
But I would say I would take the offensive line over the defensive line if we could just get rid of like that one major factor, of course. But if you're looking across, like what's going on in the game right now, man? Like it's gonna matter. Running game travels. Playing physical on defense travels. Like you can win games with a really, really good offensive and defensive line, box players, running backs, linebackers, and safeties. And I love it, man. If you don't have that, you better figure out how to develop it. Otherwise, you are going nowhere because there are not enough Joe Burrows in this league.
No, you can't have those special players just be the one guys you try to depend on. You got to – I learned this as probably way back in Little League that the big guys up front rule. I learned that instantly as a running back, as a little kid. My brother's talking to me, and my dad being an offensive lineman, just understanding the game and seeing where it started in. It started in with the offensive line and defensive line. Who wins those matchups? Who can keep the defense from penetrating? And then coming downhill with the offensive linemen when they want to run block all day, but obviously they know they got to go into pass sets from time. But if they do their job, then you protect everybody. You protect the quarterback. You give the running back time to run and hit the gaps and get some big yardage and wide receivers to get open. So, when you don't invest in that, you don't develop that talent. You don't teach the technique and obviously teach the patience. Then teaching the technique brings on the patience because you're not going to there's not just the first battle. It's not just the first snap and it's over. You got potentially 80 plays that you got to deal with this guy in front of you. And for 80 plays, you got to figure out from play to play what I'm going to do different to keep him guessing so he doesn't just fly by me or bull rush me every play. So that's the beauty of trench warfare and then battling in between the D-line and O-line. So
we could go even further with that because it really is. It speaks on who you are as an organization.
Mm-hmm.
And here's what I mean by that. So I had Dr. Rick Pereira on the Process to Perform podcast, right? And he has this great talking point and he's been in the NFL, NBA, Major League Baseball.
Yeah, I've heard his name before. Yes.
And his talking point was this. You either have organizational culture by design or by default. And his statement was there's about 26 or 27 teams in the National Football League who are culture by default, meaning that they are not there. Every coach comes in and says, I'm going to fix the culture of this place. I'm going to fix the culture of this place. We're going to have this. But they do not have a methodology and process in place, right, to fix the culture of that building. And we're talking 26 or 27. This guy's been around the game for a long time.
Right.
And so you start thinking about all right, what does that entail? Well, part of it, a huge part of it, is the vision you have for your team, how you communicate to your team, the standards you have for your team, the discipline your team has. And when you look at that, because they are the least talked about people in the building, what could be a better reflection of that than your offensive and defensive line, your linebackers, running backs to a certain extent too. You know what I mean?
Correct. Yep.
It's like if you have that in place and it's right, like that, I promise you that team's going to be good because that means you're investing in making those players the best versions of themselves. And if you're not, it's just because there's all these people, there's 7 openings in the NFL right now. And you just go man, you hope these guys get it right because otherwise it's another 3 years of nonsense for these NFL teams.
Yeah. And you're wasting talent at the same time. You're wasting guys' actual physical ability mixed in with the mental side to get them to that level, to a Tom Brady level, to, Aaron Rodgers level, just to understand what the physical and what the mental can do when everything is done right, when it's developed the proper way. So, and down in Panthers. So the Panthers started off the season good, but now it rolls out. They're trying to get him out of here. So what's your thoughts here?
Yeah,
buddy?
It's tough, man. It's played for the Panthers for 3 years. David Tepper came in, bought the program, and I think he's doing everything he can to turn that organization back around. They had obviously it was the toxic culture there with Richardson for a while, and that's why he had to be excused from owning the team.
Mm-hmm.
But Matt Rule came in, college guy. He's kind of has a reputation for turning places around, Temple, Baylor, etc.
Yep.
And it look, when you bring a college guy in, it's really tough. Like their schedule is different, the way they talk to players is different, and for whatever reason, they're just not having a lot of success on offense. They brought in Darnold this year, thinking they're like, okay, we can kind of resuscitate his career and the problems he had with the New York Jets and Gase's offense. And it's tough, man. It's tough in that because Carolina got used to success. Like when I was there, it was a ACC basketball town. It's a Panther town now. Cam Newton changed Carolina. Cam Newton made that place a Panther town.
Got it.
And Luke Kuechly and all these. I mean, they had a lot of. They went to the Super Bowl. They had an MVP, right?
Yep.
And so now with these guys struggling in the manner they are struggling in, they want Rule out. And this, the poor guy he's saying he can't even go to like the basketball game. He can't take his kid because everyone's booing his kid. And you just go, we were not as public figures, but you get into that situation where you're struggling or something's not going well, and then. Like you hear about these stories. There was another one out on the West Coast where the kids are getting beat up at school or picked on at school and stuff. And I go, man, just like I almost wish I could be like the invisible bodyguard for some of these kids sometimes, man. Because
me too.
They don't deserve that life, bro. It just bothers me. I just wanted to bring it up.
Yeah, man. That sucks, bro. I mean, I think back with my kids growing up here in the Green Bay area, and my stepkids were in Milwaukee area, and they say in the conversation they'll come home one weekend and say they were in a conversation with friends, and they say, "Oh yeah, my stepdad is a Mon Green," but it just come up, matter of factly, they wasn't trying to bring it up, but it just came up, and then the friends like, "No, he's not. No, he's not," and then they, giving them attitude because they think they're lying. I'm like, I said, you know what, babe, just don't even listen to them. Move on, change the subject, or if you want, or just walk out because they are not going to believe you. Don't try to make them believe you. Just move on. So I'm with you. Love to be that invisible person, like, pop, 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 pop. Get up out of here. Yeah, move on.
You got every right to boo. You paid the ticket, you got every right to boo. But if I'm at a different venue, man, if I'm walking in the mall and you start ragging on my kid, like
right. No, that's
boy, it would be
it's a hard day. It would be a tough day.
It'd be some problems. Big problems. It's like you're supposed to turn the other cheek, right? I know you're supposed to turn the other cheek, right? But
when it comes to your kids, that's a whole different territory.
That's like my son is always like, "Hey, Dad, you want to hear what a one-handed clap sounds like?" Pop.
I like it. Real. And then one quick other moment too. Similar situation, close situation. We're at Six Flags. Six Flags is right on the border of Wisconsin and Illinois. We went there. This is when all the kids were little, and we went to Six Flags, hang out with the fam. And of course, halfway through the day, all the fans started, "Oh, that's a Mon," so it started to spread around. And so we're at one of the rides. We're just getting off one of the rides. We're in the kiddie part of Six Flags, and we got these fans. I got my they're older now, but they were 5 and like 4 years old. Fans are literally walking over my kids to get to me, and I'm like, "Oh, game over, timeout. This is done. We're out." Right. I picked up my kids, put them on my split boat. I'm walking out with kids like this, like, "No, we're out of here." I'm like, "Dude, you just literally stepped on my daughter. You physically pushed her." I said, "We're out." I was like, "We're going to the car. We're out of here." Boom. So yeah, people, you just gotta understand we're human too. We got things we want to do, we want to have fun, but sometimes you gotta just bring it down a notch. So with these Cowboys, keep doing cowboy things. And I mentioned this because I was talking, I was watching this game with friends and family, and I was just like, it starts with the coaching staff here. I even know a guy I played with and for, Mike McCarthy. It's just, and you brought it up where he's not doing the play calling, he's not doing certain things, and that might be part of this why they're looking like, or they doing things like you say, Cowboys keep doing cowboy things here. So I don't know, that might be part of it.
Yeah, listen, we I don't want to beat a dead horse, man. It just seems it's unfortunate because it's almost like they're cursed right now.
And
it almost feels like they're cursed in the sense that they've built this team that on paper just looks like they should be world beaters.
Look fantastic.
And they just make the worst mistakes, and just it's like you know, with the pressure, you can't make a diamond without pressure, right?
Correct.
Pressure brings it can bring out the best of you, but it can also bring out the worst. And for whatever reason, that game we talked about it already, man. That game yesterday was unbelievable.
Yeah,
but it was also spoken into reality. It was all week. It was like they're going to blow it. They're going to do it, and they're going to do it, and they're going to do it. And maybe they were listening. You tell everybody to turn off their radio. Maybe they didn't, man. Maybe they just heard it.
Yeah, like I said, my prediction was off what I saw when I was in Cowboy Stadium when the Broncos came into town, and it was not a team that I was expecting to win that game the way they started the game off. So, all right, so there is the end. I think the end of trench warfare there. So we get into predictions from around the league of what teams are left for the playoffs, and so we have coming up next Saturday, 3:30 Central Standard Time, Cincinnati Bengals at Tennessee. And then we have the 49ers coming to Green Bay. As I mentioned, it's at 15 kickoff. And then on Sunday, it's the game tonight is going to be determined between the Rams and the Cardinals going to Tampa Bay, and then Buffalo at Kansas City, 5:30 on Sunday as well. So what you think about these Bengals? I'm going to start this off with you.
Yeah, man, those Bengals are real. And you would think that the Tennessee Titans would be overwhelming favorites, but that Joe Burrow is really good, and that Jamar Chase guy is like unguardable right now. It's unbelievable. I mean, that game, it's insane how good he is. Like, it's almost like, man, it's like he's playing Tecmo Bowl or something, dude.
Right. I mean, I think the part of it is that they're obviously college teammates. I don't think people are really understanding how that, from a high level standpoint, between the quarterback and receiver is so important, because obviously it happens at the NFL level. We've seen it with Devontae and Aaron Rodgers right now through their career as pro teammates. In the time it took them 6-7 years to get this relationship on an on-field relationship and obviously off-the-field relationship to now, when the ball is in the air to Devontae, something's about to happen. And that's what you're seeing with Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase. When that ball is in the air, like Joe's like, I'm going to throw it up. I'm going to go back shoulder on this one. I'm going to go throw it ahead of him on that one. And he knows already, because they've had conversations down in school. They had conversation in Cincy saying, okay, this is what I'm going to do when they doing man press in my face. I'm going to get off the route like this and put the ball here, and I'm good. Those are conversations that these players are having. That's why we're seeing the result of what Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase is doing.
Yeah, the Titans got that D-line that had a lot of success this year, Justin Simmons and company. And you just think, like, Joe Burrow's been sacked more than anybody in the NFL. And you just go, but it's a testament to that number is misleading a little bit, right? Like, we was talking about who's giving up sacks and everything, but the Tennessee Titans are going to come in. They might sack him 5-6 times. I still don't feel good about them winning the game. Just for this, unless Derrick Henry comes back and plays gets 32 carries, then it's all bets are off, right?
Yeah, that's a whole nother level,
right? But even if they sack him 5-6 times, like they did with Stafford, like, I don't think he throws the ball into I don't think he just turns it over on the 1 yard line. Like, I think he just, okay, I know I'm going to get hit 10 times today. I know I'm going to get knocked down 5. I know I'm going to get sacked 5. But I'm going to throw the ball 40 times, and 30 of them going to that boy over there, and he's pretty good. Right? And it's just like, God, I don't know. You got to prove it to me that you can beat him.
Exactly. And you got Mixon, the running back, doing well. Running the ball.
Yeah, we don't even talk about the other guys either.
Right.
Uzomah's unbelievable. Good tight end. I mean, they have weapons.
You got T. Higgins. I mean, they got a whole slew of young players that I believe are very hungry. And they want to make some noise in the playoffs, and they did this past weekend by beating down Bill Belichick and the Patriots in their offense and their defense here. And then going on to Tampa game coming in. So right now we don't know who they're playing, but right now, regardless of who they're playing, Tom Brady and his offense. Yeah, Tom Brady and his offense. They look good. I mean, it's just easy to say. They look good. He's on rhythm. Regardless of the guys he's lost, you talk about Fournette, Godwin, Antonio Brown. I think it's one other player gone. It didn't matter. To me, I knew that. I was like, you know what? I've seen this whole movie before when he was in New England. I was going to
say that's like 10 years straight New England where he didn't have – he still has more weapons now than he did in New England for like 16 out of the 18 years.
Right. I don't think people realize that. It's like he really was just slapsticking it together. But the players knew that was with him in New England, you know what? We just do our job. This is going to happen. We don't have to be the best player. We could just work hard and grind and get open, do our blocks, do our job, make the execution when the play is called, doing that. And that's basically what's happening here with BA, Bruce Arians, and Tom Brady, on the field being the leader, and Bruce Arians being the leader on the sidelines and during the practice week. This is a team offensively, defensively, with the weapons and the players. I like their defense. As always, in the last couple of years been good, and now got a good quarterback to lead that offense.
Their defense is, JPP comes back, Shaq Barrett comes back, White comes back, and you're just like, those guys are Landry David. You're like, oh my God, they are absolutely stacked on defense now.
Yeah.
Their defensive line they're probably the only defensive line in the playoffs where I go, every single player across that line is a problem.
Yeah, Vita Vea, you saw what he did. What he did to people.
Sue is arguably their least effective lineman right now. Ndamukong Suh.
Right.
Think about that statement.
And
that is a preposterous statement. Like, that guy is a unit.
Right.
Vita Vea took Jason Kelce and put him like upside down on his head yesterday. And Jason Kelce is an all-pro.
Right.
Like, they're good everywhere. Their linebackers, probably the best linebacker tandem in the game. They are good up front, man. So that is that's scary. They're a scary opponent. I know Josh Allen had a monster game against the Patriots run game run defense. And he looked, what do you have? Would they have no punts, no kicks? Or maybe they knelt down once.
Yeah. And for their offense, that game, they were just saying who we are, what they do. This is what we're going to do. And I say now between the talent that Josh Allen has and his IQ of the game is getting to that next level, because he's been beat up by time. He's been beat up by better teams to understand, okay, this is what I need to do to be that guy, be this quarterback for my team. So, he's learning that, and he looked good. So, and then the defense looked good. Micah Hyde interception, to make that play,
right.
That's why you get paid what you get paid. And then to have I've known him as a player here in Green Bay when he was a safety here for the Packers, and I hung out with him, did some talk shows with him, and he has that competitive mindset that where, you know what, I'm not here, to be flashy. I'm not here to do this, that, and the other. I'm here to play strong safety. If I got to hit you, if I got to cover you, I'm gonna do that. And that play right there, just to me, was the epitome of how I know Micah Hyde. That was just a great play out there on that football field.
What was the guy that before the Green Bay Packers have had some great. Leroy Butler. You started going on their safeties, right?
Right.
What was the guy's name? He's in the Packers Hall of Fame, but his career got cut short. Oh, he was an absolute unit, Super Bowl champion.
Was it safety or? Yeah. I don't know. Was it Chuck Cecil?
No. This is in the 2009 championship.
Nick Collins.
Nick Collins.
I
love watching that dude.
He was
that guy was guy was a player. We just had good players there, man. That's a position we've again, like you have a wealth of talent in one spot, man. I remember Leroy Butler started the Lambeau Leap, he was the guy, man. The Butler did it. Who did it? The Butler did it. Every time you get a pick and we win a game, they'd be like, "Who did it? The Butler did it!" Ha ha.
Yeah, I remember those.
So who do you got in that game though? Who do you got in the? So that Bills Chiefs game is going to be a good matchup.
Ooh, yeah, it's going to be a good matchup. That's going to be the toughest decision of a game right there, because the Bills defense is going to probably be the perfect matchup for that Kansas City wide receiver core and Pat Mahomes. And then boil down from there, it's going to just be, and then shoot.
It's tough,
that's tough because, like I said, I see that Bills defense that
in
back
Kansas City though, AG in Kansas City. I think that matters.
I think matters a little bit, obviously, because it's a road trip, and I think those guys, like I said, Micah Hyde and the other safety, they got the leadership on that, where a road trip ain't nothing to them. It's just another part of the deal. And
I think it's the communication on offense. So that stadium is, I don't know if you've been there.
For the Vine.
I played there together.
No, I played in Seattle when I was in Seattle.
Because you and I didn't play there.
Loud. Yes, it gets loud.
It is it's different. Especially we played there. Gosh, when I was in Miami, we played there in like late December for a playoff spot, and oh my god,
Yeah,
so Marcus
it gets
Peters
fun.
was still there. Marcus Peters, by the way, that guy was pretty good. That guy was like calling out our plays from the cornerback position. I was like, oh my Lord, what are we doing?
Like, hey, really?
But story for another time.
Right. So no, I say if I'm a pick, I say it's gonna be a tight one, but it's gonna be Chiefs at home going to the AFC Championship game from there. That's my pick. And then what about you for tonight's game, Rams and Cards?
Yeah, I'm going to take the Cards. I just listen. The Stafford thing, I can't get it out of my. Every time you see a guy get pressured and throw picks, like I'm a lineman, I can't get it out of my head.
Right.
And the way that Kyler Murray can operate inside the pocket, outside the pocket, he's not quite like, he's not Lamar Jackson, but he can move. He can absolutely scoot.
Mhm.
And he's like, his accuracy is, I don't think it's celebrated as much as it should be. Like,
I agree.
I think he's a really, really good passer. I've always thought that Chandler Jones was one of the best defenders in the league. They might get JJ Watt back tonight. I think he did his own hype video, so we'll see how that goes. Their two linebackers are incredible. Simmons is having a great year. Buda Baker is one of the best guys in the game. Like, I just love their defense. And if D-Hop comes back tonight, yeah. If D-Hop's back tonight, like, I would just go.
It's gonna be problems.
That's game. But it's going to be a good game. But I do think the Cards are going to win this one.
Yeah, I agree. Like, I'm watching quarterbacks the last couple of weeks and their accuracy and then just their throw motion and watching Kyler and the way he just manipulates the player that's trying to cover him if they put a spy on him, manipulates the defensive line when they're rushing. Like, he's full aware of where he's at on the field in the pocket. Mm-hmm. And then when he breaks the pocket, he's full aware. Okay, I know I'm not past the line of scrimmage, so I could do this. I could pump fake, boom, 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 and then get somebody open before I even pass the line of scrimmage. But you know what? I'm going to just pump fake and then gain 2 or 3 yards and then slip on out of bounds. Like, he had a run earlier this season where he picked up like 15 yards like it was nothing because he's skidding, scaling down and pump faking down the sidelines, was able to get out of bounds, stop the clock with like maybe a second left or 2 seconds left to help his team, get in field goal range. So he just has that one part of competition where he can, like you say, like we were talking about earlier, live in the moment and not think about nothing else. The game could be his worst game, but then those plays leading up to his team, helping his team win, he's on point, basically. So I say from a quarterback standpoint, I definitely like Cards and Kyler what he does with the ball and what he does with himself and helps his team get to a winning position in all the games here. So we want to get into more Black Monday talk with firings, or what's up? Where we at?
I mean, listen, you know what? Let's save it. Let's save it and give him a week, because I think honestly, I think there might be another firing. And here's the other thing. Like, I want to get into, like, I'm down in Texas, and so some of the stuff that's going on with the Texans is nuts, right? And I know you played there, but I think what'll happen is we'll digress into. I think we need more time.
Got it. No problem.
You know what I mean? Why don't let's put it on the shelf until next week, because for me, let's just do this. AG, what's the best spot? What's the worst spot of all the openings right now? Where would you if you were a head coach?
Right.
Where would you go? And where's absolutely no chance you're going?
Okay, so we got Texans, we got Dolphins, Giants, Bears, Broncos, Vikings, Jags. A place that I would go because of what they have there right now, Chicago, because of Justin Fields and that defense. I could come in there, get to know Justin, get to know the offensive players, defense, getting to know my players in general and say, look, we could do this. Because of the talent, because of what I've seen so far through his playing ability in terms of Justin Fields, but then also that defensive side, not knowing contract years, with Cleo and some of the other defenders out there, but what they have as a whole there defensively, you could work with that, because we know it's all about offense. The offense is not there, so the defense struggles. They get tired, they're beat up. They're humans just like anybody else. But if they're fresh coming off the line, it's similar to what happened to Tom Brady going to Tampa Bay. Because Tampa Bay had the number one defense, pretty much top 10 defense in the NFL with a bad offense.
Right.
They get the addition of Tom Brady. Look what happens. They got one Super Bowl. They're headed to it. They're trying to get to another one. All right, and then for a team that I'm like, not yet, or hold up, it's a toss up between the Jags and Texans. It's like, wait a minute, timeout. You need me? Who? Where? It just because for both places.
Where's the jet?
I know. I want to go home. I want to go home. Can I go home and think about this? Yeah, give me some time. So, I don't really have a whole lot of people that I know that played for the Jaguars, but just from outside looking in, the owner Khan, he's a business guy, a savvy guy, and I don't know if it starts with him or if it ends with him or if he's this is one of the good or bad pieces there. I don't know, but I know the Texans and I know that history because I was there back almost like I said, 2007 and 8 and 9 when they released me. I was happy. I was like, thank you. I wanted to go back to Green Bay in 08, and my agent, coerced me to stay. And I'm like, nah, I still wanted to go. But because I knew it was an underlying thing, like I mentioned already, when you have employees in the building, when it's Titans week, wearing Oiler jerseys, there's a problem. Okay.
Hey, you know what I never asked you?
What's up?
When you went back to Green Bay, you wore number 34.
Yes.
Was there ever a conversation with whoever the hell was number 30? Like
it was John. Yeah, we had a conversation.
Who was it?
It was John Kuhn. And we had that conversation.
Jesus. John, he should have begged you to take it back. Damn fullback. Are you kidding me?
Yes.
John Kuhn's a great guy.
Yeah. But
I would have been I would have for a cup of coffee.
Right. For me, me. I'm like, whatever. Yeah. I said I
know. That's why I asked.
Yeah, I'm 34. I'll take it. I love Walter Payton anyway. I
forgot about John Kuhn. He was a good player for them too.
No, he was a solid player, a good leader and everything. But yeah, those are my two. Yes, I will go. I'm like, hold up. And what about you? I like that question. What about you?
So I would say this. I think I would say the exact same thing. A lot of people are saying the Bears is the worst situation because they don't have personnel. I looked at their offensive line tape and thought, actually, these guys are pretty good. Justin Fields we don't know what he's going to be, but again, I've now kind of categorized. You have these like 5 superstar quarterbacks that can win you a Super Bowl.
Mm-hmm.
Then you have like 14 guys that are going to be about the same. Right. And then the rest of the guys, I don't want anything to do with. And I think Justin Fields can at least be in one of those 2 categories.
Correct. Easy.
And the way that I would want to play offense and defense, the way that I would want to teach it, develop my team, I'm very confident that I could win with Justin Fields as a quarterback because we're going to be run, we're going to be play action, we're going to give him opportunities to be successful. We're going to keep it simple until he grows into, from a maturation standpoint, all right, I'm ready to make multiple reads pre-snap and post-snap. It's going to be, let's make this as easy for you as possible, okay, until you are ready, and then we'll just keep layering it on, but we're not going to make you the focal point of the offense, right? The run game is going to be the focal point of the offense. If we have a great slot receiver, he's going to be involved in the run game.
Mm-hmm.
If we have a good wide receiver, we're going to put him in space, give him a lot of simple things to do 1v1 to open up. Like, we're just going to make it that kind of offense. You might say, oh, it's not creative enough to be on Madden, but like we're going to score some points, right? Because we can execute better than everybody else. And then defensively, they've got dogs on that side of the team, and what they need is hope. Like, they just need hope. If they just had hope, they would be even better than they are now. They'd be playing at a higher level, like their ceiling would be raised. So I love that idea.
Yep.
And yeah, you could, like, I've been in Miami, and so I kind of know, like, there's some really good dudes there. I think they actually have a really good team. I don't know if the whole Tua thing but what happened with Flores and why he had to go would really make me take pause, because it's like, dude, he turned that team around. Like, that play, they were in a bad place when Gase left.
Mm-hmm.
And he turned that team around, and people that I know in that building believe in that guy. And so for them to dismiss him after the last 2 years, turn the franchise, turn the culture around, like, that makes me really take pause.
Yeah.
But then, dude, you hear the Texans and they're like, all right, well, they're interested in their Josh McCown. Like, they were interested. They wanted to hire Josh McCown as a quarterback, as the head coach last year when he was a damn backup quarterback. Like that was like a legitimate going around thing.
What?
They hired they interviewed Hines Ward. Like, and Hines Ward could be a head coach. There's no doubt. But dude, he's like a wide receiver coach, like Florida Atlantic. I'm not saying it's a bad deal. It's just like they had Mayo. So you think about it, who they got? They got
Mayo from New England.
The pastor from New England.
Yeah.
And then they got Nick Caserio. And those two guys are pulling the strings. Yep. They dismissed Culley. I don't know how much, as it turns out, you don't know how much power Culley had to begin with. Right. But he seemed like a pretty damn good guy. Seemed like a guy I want to play for. Right? If you need to get a new coordinator, get a new coordinator. But he seemed like the kind of guy I would want to be around. He seemed like a kind of guy that's a leader of men. He had a good temperament, all of it, right? Mm-hmm. So it's just like when I see that kind of stuff, it makes me go like, you just don't know what you're going to get, right? If you're out after 1 year, after 2 years, that don't make any sense.
No, it doesn't.
And then the Jags thing, Shad Khan, I don't know. Shad Khan's like, he must innovate a lot in his business. Like, so he's not afraid of like tacking left and right.
Right.
Because he seems on the one hand, he seems like innovative and like seems like a really good guy. But then the other hand, it's like, man, you keep hiring these people that are head scratchers, dude. Like complete head scratchers.
Yeah, for me, and you know very well, that last one was definitely a head scratcher for me in terms of Urban Meyer. So, woo! Anyway, we'll wrap up the show with that right there. So, everybody, download the podcast wherever you download your podcast at, and you can follow. You can see the social right there on the bottom of the screen there. But for everybody listening in that can't see that, you could go to On My Block on Twitter. That's ON_MY_block on Twitter. And then you can find me on social media at AmonGreen30, all one word, on Twitter and Instagram. And Mike, let everybody know where you can find you. Online.
Yeah, Mike Wall68, Twitter, Prostitute Perform on Instagram. AG, a pleasure as always, my man.
Yes, same here. Always big fun. And we'll be back next week to maybe wrap this thing up or keep on talking.
Hell no. No, we got some weeks.
No, we got some weeks. I'm just doing the foreshadowing, the fun little stuff, you know. All right. But yeah, everybody, we'll be back next week for another show and talk about this win. That's for the Packers versus the 49ers in Lambeau Field. So hope everyone enjoy your week. And again, Happy New Year and happy Martin Luther King birthday or day today. Sorry about that. All right. Talk to you later.